not everything can be perfect, so it has raised a lot of criticism and controversies out there. I'm going to be approaching those two. First on the universe, our bodies, any physical object that is around us has been generating an enormous amount of data. Like, it has always been that way, but we have not always been able to fully capture and make sense out of this data, right? Until very recently. So today, IoT enables these objects, enables almost everything with the capability of collecting data, sending it, and acting based upon the data and the data it acquires from its surroundings, right? But many might words, it's everything. So what does a thing, a common object, has to have for it to be an IoT thing, right? In the context of IoT, what does it have to have? First, it needs a unique identifier. Then on, it needs to have an embedded system and the capability of transferring data over a network. That's all we need for making anything, pretty much anything, an IoT thing. Then these are often called connected devices, right? Once they are already a IoT thing, these are called connected devices. And these devices, sometimes they talk to each other. And we humans, we can interact with these gadgets by like setting them up, and we can also like give them instructions on what to do, where to collect data from, when to do it, how to do it. But it is basically all these devices that do most of the work without any human intervention. IoT has a cycle, and it runs through this cycle once again and again and again, and all devices in the network do. It collects data everywhere, in your car, in your office, at your house, in the hospital, when you walk, as you eat. It's collecting data. There are sensors around, all around the world, and they're all sensing and collecting this data. Then on, I talked about machine-to-machine communication. I want to talk about that. That's how the devices communicate. Once they are smart enough to communicate with each other, and they send this information, this data, sorry, not information, this data to a specific destination, destinations that have been already, that are meant for that data to reach. Now, data is nothing for us because we are not capable of understanding it, not really. It is until these devices transform it into information that it's actually useful for us. So once these devices have communicated with one another with the data they collected, they can display it to us in an understandable way. And at the end, these devices act, right? So if you give it an instruction of a device to send a file once it has collected determined data, it will. And then it would restart the cycle. Collect, communicate, analyze, and act. I'm going to give you a very quick example with this chair. So let's assume we have this chair right here, and we want to make it a smart thing. I said a thing, right? So this chair is not a smart, definitely not smart. And all we need is first a unique identifier, right? A unique identifier I mentioned at the beginning. So we can use IP addresses for that. That is what commonly, that's what we use. We don't use names or numbers. But for this example's purposes, we're going to call this chair John Smith. Okay, so John, a non-smart thing, right? I want to know who is sitting here, who is sitting on John, if John is occupied, where John is at a specific time from anywhere in the world. I'm going to place a sensor here because I need it to equip it with the ability of sensing. I'm going to place a sensor, and then on, I am going to be in my house or my computer checking on that sensor because the sensor is going to be collecting data. So the person that passed by, I can monitor how the chair is doing. If somebody sits there, proximity sensor is going to sense it, and I know it's occupied. Now, that's what we can do with a simple chair, right? But imagine how IoT is actually empowering users, right? What other chances we have out there. So go beyond. Yes, we can go beyond. I can even like place a motor on the chair and control it remotely, which wouldn't be very useful for a chair. But, well, John, right? John can be a smart thing, and pretty much anything else can as well. If I talk about the applications of IoT, I would need a lot more than 7 minutes to reach them all. It's so complex, and the list just goes on and on. We've got smart parking from efficient waste management and all that. But I'm going to give you 3 examples. In China, by 2014, in China was the world's second for obesity after the U.S. They invented the Internet of Food, a technology that was like helping control the calories on the foods and like sensing how their bodies were doing. Devices like wristbands and applications and all that. Then on, we've got in Spain, they control air pollution in Barcelona, being one of the first smart cities out there. And in Las Vegas, in the US, they control traffic by placing sensors in different places and managing the traffic flow and all that. IoT is moving towards more and more devices every day, every year. By 2005, we had already more devices connected than we had people in the world, which is very alarming. And it has risen up a lot of questions and like security, privacy, and all that, and all those matters that they're just gonna keep on piling up. But it's definitely that I think IoT can help us connect to a better future. As I said, change is the only permanent thing in this world. Thank you.
That was a great presentation and very informative. The only thing I would say when you're presenting is don't forget to look at the people that you're trying to convince when you're presenting. Look them in the eye. Don't be afraid to do that. They're the ones you're speaking to. It'll help you make a connection with them while you're having the conversation.
Yep, I will have the same comment. Look at us. What would you say, I want to get more into the content, what you just explained to us. What would you say is the most scaring part in this Internet of Things, according to you?
I believe the most alarming thing about the Internet of Things is how fast it's growing. In the previous chart, we could see that by 2005, we already had surpassed the number of devices connected, right? And there was people in the world. And if you keep looking, by 2020, we're probably going to have over 50 billion devices, right? Now, there are some pressing concerns about these devices being connected to a network and being able to sense everything, right? But I wouldn't say that, for me, there is nothing really, really scary, right? I wouldn't use the word scary. Maybe yes, but these are all approachable matters, right? Approachable, I think, concerns that we could take care of. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, oops. Thank you. I think your presentation is very well structured. I especially like the last part, the controversy part. So I think it's a little bit one step further from just talking about the future, some positive sides, but people, the audience may be interested in to know what are the controversies, ethical issues, and so I like the last part.
Thank you.
Just a word to say, following the comments just here, presentation was very clear, very interesting. I must say, big plus was the answering to these questions by yourself. I must say it's very clear, and it's a real plus on the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Edward.